You would never do it alone. Not this. Not something like this. But put you in a crowd, give you a mask, a uniform, a chant, and something changes. Something old wakes up. And the strangest part is, you won't even notice it happening. Think about the last time you were part of a group that got loud. A concert, a protest, a stadium after a goal. Did you feel bigger than yourself? Did you feel a little invisible too? That feeling has a name. Psychologists call it deindividuation. It means the sense of you starts to dissolve and the sense of us takes over. Your name disappears into the crowd. Your face disappears into the mass. And when that happens, the rules you normally follow start to feel optional. This isn't a flaw in your character. It's a feature of your brain. For most of human history, survival meant belonging to a group. A lone human on the savannah was a dead human. But a group, a tribe, a coalition of 40 or 50 people that could hunt, defend, and endure. So your brain evolved a shortcut. When you're part of a group, prioritize the group's identity over your own. Match the group. Move with the group. Disappear into the group. That shortcut kept your ancestors alive. But it also opens a door. And once you're inside that door, you can be pushed further than you'd ever expect. In 1895, a French social thinker named Gustave Le Bon wrote something unsettling. He said that a person in a crowd is a different creature from that same person standing alone. Le Bon called it the crowd mind. He believed that inside a crowd, individual judgment gets replaced by a kind of collective impulse. People become more emotional, more suggestible, more willing to act on instinct instead of reason. Le Bon wasn't a modern scientist, and some of his ideas haven't aged well. But his central observation was correct, and later researchers would prove it with real data. Decades later, the psychologist Solomon Asch ran one of the most famous experiments in social psychology. He gathered small groups of people and showed them a simple task. Look at a line. Decide which of 3 other lines matches its length. It's not hard. Most people get it right almost every time when they're alone. But Asch added a twist. Everyone in the room except one person was secretly told to give the wrong answer. Confidently, out loud, one by one. And when it came time for the real participant to answer, something remarkable happened. About 1/3 of the time, they went along with the group, even when the answer was obviously wrong, even when their own eyes told them otherwise. Why would someone override their own senses just to match a group of strangers? Because disagreeing with the group doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels dangerous. Somewhere deep in your nervous system, standing out from the tribe still registers as a threat. Not a social threat, a survival threat. Even in a quiet room, with nothing at stake but a line on a card. Now imagine raising the stakes. Imagine adding anonymity. Imagine adding a uniform, a mask, a hood, a screen name. Something that hides your individual identity even further. That's exactly what psychologist Muzafer Sherif explored, though from a different angle. In the 1950s, he ran a study now known as the Robber's Cave experiment. He took a group of ordinary 12-year-old boys at a summer camp and split them into 2 teams. Within days, without any real conflict at first, the boys began forming intense group loyalty. They created flags, they created nicknames. They started to see the other team not as fellow campers, but as rivals. Then as enemies. Sherif hadn't picked cruel children, he'd picked completely average boys. What changed them wasn't their character. It was the structure around them. 2 groups, competition, identity. That combination was enough to turn strangers into enemies within a matter of days. Here's the pattern connecting all of this. Le Bon saw it in crowds. Asch proved it with a simple line-matching task. Sherif watched it emerge in children at summer camp. The individual doesn't just influence the group rewires the individual. And the less identifiable you feel, the further that rewiring goes. Researchers have found that when people feel anonymous within a group, whether through darkness, masks, uniforms, or even just the size of the crowd, they become measurably more willing to act aggressively or against their own normal values. Not because anonymity creates cruelty from nothing, but because it removes the internal brake that usually says, "This is you, and you will be seen." Take away the seeing, and the brake weakens. This is why looting can happen during blackouts. Why online commenters say things behind an avatar they'd never say to someone's face. Why a single soldier in uniform can commit an act in a unit that the same person, as an individual standing alone at home, would find unthinkable. It's not that the group makes you a different person. It's that the group unlocks a version of you that was always possible, one that quietly exists beneath your everyday identity, waiting for the right conditions. And this isn't only about violence or wrongdoing. The same mechanism drives extraordinary courage. Soldiers who charge into danger they'd never face alone, because the group beside them makes retreat feel unthinkable. Strangers who form human chains to save a drowning swimmer, moving as one unit without a plan. Volunteers who show up by the thousands after a disaster, because being part of something larger than yourself makes the impossible feel achievable. The group can pull you toward your worst instinct. It can also pull you toward your best one. The direction depends entirely on what identity the group gives you in that moment. Are you a hero, a rebel, a rioter, a rescuer? The label the crowd hands you becomes the script you follow, often before you've consciously decided anything at all. So the next time you feel yourself swept into something bigger, a chant, a movement, a wave of shared outrage online, pause for 1 second. Ask yourself a simple question. If I were standing here completely alone, with no one watching, would I still do this? That single question puts your individual identity back in the driver's seat. It reintroduces the you that the crowd temporarily dissolved. Because here's the truth hiding underneath all of it. You are not a fundamentally different person in a group than you are alone. You're the same person, with the same values, the same fears, the same moral compass. What changes is not who you are. What changes is what feels visible, what feels risky, and what feels shared. You would never do it alone, but you were never really alone in the first place. Somewhere in that crowd, wearing that uniform, hiding behind that mask was still you, the whole time.